All right, welcome to the All American Hoops podcast, episode 18. I'm Chris Driscoll, and of course, I'm welcomed by social media director for Hoop Social, Orry B.
Hey, how's it going today, guy?
Can't complain myself. Obviously, NBA season is coming to a close, and it flew by. Like it feels like yesterday the Celtics were playing the Knicks in opening night. It's insane how it always flies by.
I agree. It's we're at that part of the year too where we're just all so excited anticipating the playoffs now, where it's just like, come on already. I can't wait for them to start.
Completely, yeah. It's going to be and not only are we looking forward to it to start, but just the entire end of the season. It's been okay. Are any of these teams going to lock up their spots in the playoffs? Or are we gonna or are we gonna wait until now? Because the only teams that I think have clinched their spots are the Celtics, the Bulls, the Hawks, and as of yesterday, the Clippers and the Mavs. So 5 of the 20 spots have been clinched in Game 82 for everyone is tomorrow. So this season has just been bananas.
Yeah, I agree there 100%. I mean, it's definitely a testament to the amount of parity in the league. That these things are so close and so tight. I mean, especially the West being so tight. I mean, every game matters, even game 82. I mean, that's pretty cool.
100%. And yeah, I was someone who was pretty anti playing tournaments for a while. And still, like, I do think it's kind of unfair how the Hawks and the Bulls are going to finish 6 games behind the whoever finishes the 8 seed. But still, just the fact that we're in game 82 now and so many games matter for placements and everything, that's very, very cool.
Exactly. I agree 100% because, yeah, I mean, I was very skeptical of the play in as well in the beginning, but I think I've kind of changed hands too, just because of maybe Miami, to be honest. Last year, I think they kind of made me feel a little better about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mentioned on Tuesday night show that because my brother John Matt and I, we had a little discussion on how we thought the rest of the year was going to go. And since Tuesday is the day of the playing tournaments, that's really all we had in between. But I also, with the permission of Tony, aka Sports Fluence, I wanted to have a show on Saturday as well to go over my awards. And I know that Ori is also super into accolades as well. So I figured he'd be a perfect guest to go over this. So yeah, really the first thing I wanted to talk about was our all NBA teams for both the like the overall NBA teams and the all defense teams. But before I did talk about that. I guess the two things I wanted to talk about was the game minimum and the and the whole positions value part aspect of it. So I'm someone who's been so we'll talk about the game minimum first. So I was someone who was very, very pro like very, very pro 65 game minimum. And I still feel that way. Like, even though it's super unfortunate that some guys didn't make the cuts, I do think that when it comes down to it, you have to play a certain amount of games in order to be rewarded for things. And I'm very happy that the NBA gives you see guys like Kawhi and KD they're playing more games than they have in the past. So I'm someone who was very happy about that. But I don't know how you felt about that, Ori.
I'm on that train with you as well. I think that it just adds. I don't know. It's a tricky situation, sure, but I think having that minimum was kind of a necessary move, to be honest, because yeah, with the load management stuff kind of taken over a little bit, some people I think were starting to think it was going a little bit too far in some scenarios, and this at the end of the day, this is entertainment. This is a game, a lot of people, a lot of fans, and you want to have your best product out there as often as possible. And I think that the 65 game limit are a minimum. I mean, kind of makes that happen better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I know like a lot of people that were anti that were saying, oh, players would never just like not play just to not play, like they're not lazy or anything. But that being said, like no one's calling them lazy. No one's saying that they don't want to play, like a lot of the old heads are saying. But I think it's more so that they were just being a little too skeptical and maybe not taking the regular season as seriously, um, which which some can argue that like, some can make the arguments that like, oh, you can blame a lot of the people who, like, as they call it, winning culture. But at the end of the day, like I just do feel like do feel like at the end of the day you have a job to do and you should make your best effort to go out and play every night as long as you're not injured.
Yes, for sure. And most NBA players feel that way. I assume share that sentiment, but there are maybe some that this minimum kind of pushes them a little forward, gives them an extra step of motivation. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Absolutely not. Yeah, so that was one of the changes that was made for the all the awards, and one of them we'll talk about the All NBA teams now. So they made the All NBA teams positionless. So pretty much, I think for all of NBA history, it was always two guards, two forwards, and a center. Um, and but yeah, before I give my take on that, or I want to know how you felt about changing it to positionless.
Uh, I definitely think it speaks to the evolution of the game. It was one of those moves that probably kind of had to happen just because we are kind of entering a positionless type of game. I realize that center forward, center power forward, small forward, shooting guard, point guard are still the staples, but at the same time, when selecting these teams like this, having those parameters can be maybe uh, lock you into a position where somebody doesn't make it that could have, I guess. So I'm all right with it overall.
Yeah, I'm definitely all right with it too. I definitely feel like the old system was a little too definitely unfair to the centers, especially because this like some of the best players in the league now are centers. So last year, I think it was 2 years ago actually. I came up with my own system, which I don't know if you saw this when I made a few TikToks on them. What I wanted to do was two guards, two front courts, and one wild card. That way,
Ooh.
every player would be eligible for 60% of the spots on the All NBA team. I think the positions still matter. As you said, like the evolution of the game, like they're like obviously position aren't as locked as they used to be. Like there's definitely more flexibility and more fluency to the game. That's especially with players like LeBron. Even guys like AD plays both the forward and the center. So but like at the same time, like in order to build the best team, you need guards, you need forwards, you need to like build the best team. So I do understand like wanting to put the five best players, you want to award them for being the five best players. But I still kind of think that they had positions in there somewhere.
That's probably fair. And honestly, the way that you're saying it that way and the way that you're explaining it probably makes a little bit more sense just because then we kind of get maybe the best of both worlds
Mhm.
and have that little bit of positional, take into consideration and then have, I like that concept of the wild card. That's a really good idea as well. So yeah, you still cover most of your bases.
Yeah, and then I also think the only way that you could that this could work though is that every player would have to be like, every player would only have to be could only be eligible for one position. So guys like DeMar DeRozan could only be eligible for the front courts. Who else? I'm sure there are other guys I can think of that aren't at the top of my head now. Jalen Brown is another one of those plays guard and forward. So yeah, that could be an issue, which is maybe that's something they considered, but I'm sure that at the end of the day they just wanted to go okay, five best players to just make it easier, and that every player best player goes to everyone.
It's funny though. Now we say this, and I go through my all NBA teams that I chose, and I think like without even necessarily meaning to, I still kind of went with the old formula anyway.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah, I was
more
gonna
or
ask.
less. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Yeah, before we started going through our teams, I was definitely gonna ask that. Yeah, but yeah, like that's the perfect segue. So I know that Nate and Aaron from the Hoops Temple podcast, they actually had a discussion about that before. And most of them did it based on the positionless value of it. And I'll ask you the same question. So I don't know if you have like your top five MVP picks. I think we agreed to only do three. But I'm curious to know like those that vote for both MVP and the All NBA teams, if they just chose their All NBA teams based on who their top five players are for MVP.
ooh, that's interesting. Let's see. If I look at my All NBA first team, all five of them are probably who I would have in the MVP conversation. Yeah,
I
I
think so.
guess I think you're right. Yeah.
So I'm imagining that we have the same first team All NBA. So why don't you give yours first?
Okay, let's see how close. I
Okay.
All right, so I will go with the obvious ones first. That is Jokic. That is Luca. The other obvious one, in my opinion, that may be a bit controversial, I have SGA. And then I have Giannis. And then I have Tatum.
Yeah, that's mine. I don't think that's too. Yeah, I have those exact same guys. And if we did it based on the old format, it looks like to be the same thing. Jokic would be our center, Tatum and Giannis would be our forwards, and then Luka and SJ would be the two guards. And it also
Right.
work out. Yeah, and it also work out the same way in my system as well. If we go with like the front court, because like Tatum would probably be the card guy there. But I know a lot of guys were argue. Not a lot of guys, but like I shouldn't say a lot of guys. It was just a lot of anti-Celtics guys, um, which you can see from that lens. Like everyone thinks that everyone hates their own team, but I do think it's to another degree with the Celtics, just because just because they're a big market and everything. But yeah, like I know that some people were saying after, what was it, Wednesday night, I think, or Thursday night, that they were the Celtics lost the Knicks, and people were saying like, oh, Brunson should be jumping ahead of Tatum now. That would be the case if it was neck and neck. Tatum has been better and more consistent, which Brunson has been inconsistent by any stretch, but Tatum has just been the better player all year long on the better team. So I'd like to play devil's advocate sometimes, but I do not see an argument for Jalen Brunson being either first team All NBA or ahead in the MVP ladder either.
I agree there too. I have to say, Brunson's had a spectacular season. He's done some tremendous things for New York. A lot of things that, I'm not going to lie, I would have never predicted for him, because I wasn't sold on him at the beginning as like a number one option. But despite that, yeah, I feel like it's way too difficult to make an argument for him over Tatum, just given what Tatum's done, what position Tatum's team's in. And I mean, Tatum is a excellent two-way player too. Like, there's tremendous value he brings in a lot of different areas of the game that people don't maybe understand as well. You know, they focus on the tremendous scoring and his ability to shot create, and don't necessarily focus on the fact that he's really got a great all-around game, and he's proven it, and he can be a leader, and this team is great. So I think Tatum does deserve it, and Brunson's just had a great season.
Yeah, I don't want to take away anything that Brunson has done, just because he's been phenomenal. And I've made multiple apology videos for him, just because when he was signed with the Knicks, and like I kind of like because I know the Knicks were, I don't know if they were fined or if they were, I don't think they were restricted any draft rights or anything for the whole tampering thing.
Hmm.
I don't think they were like draft picks. Like they were definitely fine. I don't know if they were taking draft picks though. No, I don't think so.
I don't
Yeah,
think
but
so either.
no, I don't think so. Yeah, but I remember I made a video kind of like go like kind of like pointing and laughing at the Knicks, saying like oh, how the hell do you get fined for trading for a player like Jalen Brunson? He's like yeah, like I said, like I don't even think he's a top half of the league point guard, because I had like a list of point guards there that were better that I thought were better than him, or were better than the year before. But then he comes back next year, leads the team to the playoffs in the playoff series, win the first one since Melo, and then does awesome in the playoffs and capitalizes on that this year. So hats off to Brunson without a doubt. But there are levels to this, and I think that the five guys ahead of him, I don't want to say they're above and beyond. Like I want to say like they're separated by a couple of tiers, but I'm very very confident in the five guys that we picked.
Me too. Me too. I do have Brunson in my top 10, I guess, if that holds any value.
Yeah.
But top five is just a little bit too high.
Mhm.
But like I said, I mean, we don't want to discredit him in any way, because it has been an excellent season. So I think top 10 in the MVP is still a huge reach for what his expectations were.
Absolutely. And since you mentioned top 10, why don't we go into our second team All NBA now?
Okay, now this is where it may get a little controversial. I'm not gonna
Okay,
lie.
I like this.
I tried my best to not, you know me, I'm not a hot take guy.
No.
So I tried my best to not make this a hot take, but it might sound like one. So second team, All NBA. I have Jalen Brunson.
Check.
I have Anthony Davis.
Okay.
I have Anthony Edwards.
Check.
I have Kawhi Leonard. And finally, the one that might get the most hate. I have Domantas Sabonis
Okay.
on my second team.
So I agree with you on 3 out of the 5 there. So I have Brunson, I have Kawhi, and I have Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Um, so
So it's
and
just the bigs that we have issues with.
just the picks. So I would replace AD and Sabonis with LeBron and KD. So that's I don't know. So Sabonis is one of the more interesting players in the league because he's extremely efficient, rebounds the hell out of the ball, and it's just very tough. Yeah, even though he doesn't really look like a huge physical presence, like he'll like back you down like quite better than anyone else in the league. Like he's like kind of like a like well, I don't want to say this because they might play each other in the play-in, but he's been AD's kryptonite where like he's really been posting him up really well. So yeah, Sabonis. But that being said, many argue about his overall impact. Like as great as he's on offense, it's his defense that's the problem. And I know that some people also have an issue with the fact that they think a lot of his scoring is based on just the spacing that the Kings have. But I don't know. Yeah, I know that some people like kind of like broke down film on that, but I don't really agree with that aspect of it.
Honestly, I feel like Sabonis gets kind of a bad rap in the sense that like if Nikola Jokic didn't exist, Sabonis would take that plate. Like Sabonis is like Jokic
Yeah.
light, in the
Mhm.
sense that he can do those offensive things. It's such a high offensive IQ, makes extraordinary vision, can grab you ton of rebounds, and then yeah, is an efficient scorer. I just feel like in another situation potentially maybe he would get more eyeballs and
Yep.
people might understand how talented he is because yes, I do understand some of the defensive things, but we give Jokic a pass for that. And I know Jokic plays defense, but we also know he's not great at it. So
Right.
like I think Sabonis is kind of in that same conversation, very similar. And that's why I find him to be kind of special. And maybe I'm more into him than most, but I definitely think that he's a very unique offensive player and would just be more so if Jokic didn't exist.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And yeah, and you mentioned Jokic, which like people are gonna assume that one thing you did mention was actually how phenomenal of a passer that he is. And I know that people do bring up the fact it like I trust me, I'm aware that assists don't tell the entire story, but like I think like a lot of the the watch film the guys that watch film, I think they kind of over exaggerate how um how like unimpactful his passing is, but if you have a center that can pass the hell out of the ball, that's a plus no matter what.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's gravy. People say like, oh, his passing is overrated. He's a center, and if your center can pass the ball that great, he's one of the yeah. I want him on my team, 100%.
yeah. Like okay, he's doing the center like things. He's getting you an efficient 20 and he's grabbing you like 13 boards. And then oh yeah, he can get you 8 assists. So it's like, oh, let's
Yeah, come on, yeah,
why complain about that? That seems
yeah,
like pretty extraordinary.
yeah. So yeah, zero issue with him being on the second team. I just and maybe it's like the name recognition that I'm putting LeBron and KD there, but I think that LeBron has just been LeBron regressed last season. He like wasn't he didn't play like a top 10 player last year. Year 21, and this guy's still doing this crap. Like it is bananas. Like I don't know if you watched the game last night, but just the way that he closed, like the way that he just drove, like they like kind of like drained the shot clock, and then he just kind of like did like his drive by in that, and then at last possession of the game, he just kind of stole the ball to nowhere and then slammed it down. Like when the hell is this going to end? And, yeah,
That was I will admit, Durant I was going back and forth with, but LeBron was harder because I did choose AD. So
right.
I kind of had to
Mhm,
go back and forth with the Lakers.
mhm. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, LeBron versus AD is an interesting one, and yeah, could see that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm. Um,
I feel like
but
it's one of those things that could definitely, yeah, like AD is one of those guys that like maybe doesn't get enough credit as much as LeBron does for how successful they are.
Mhm.
And I feel like especially this season, like it could go either way, and it's not a wrong answer. So I really don't have any problem with LeBron being where you have him.
Yeah, I think that last year AD was clearly better than LeBron, but this year it's a little more of a toss up. Even though AD played better, I think LeBron just definitely I don't want to say improved his game, just he's always been great, but just played like a little more consistent this year.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
yeah. So yeah, with that, why don't we go into our third team now?
All right, so third team, I don't think is as controversial because obviously two of these guys could go to the second team, and I'd have no problem. But I have for my third team, I have Tyrese Halliburton, I have Devin Booker,
Okay.
I have Kevin Durant, and I have LeBron James.
Okay.
And the last spot is the spot I had by far the most trouble with, was my last spot on the third team. I was trying to decide, honestly, between like Maxey, Curry, Gobert. You know, I at the end of the day, think I think I might go Gobert.
Okay. I thought about Gobert too.
Just what he's doing defensively is so great for Minnesota, and he's just added those levels to them that have made them so much more competitive. That it's hard to knock him for their defensive success.
Yeah, and my main yeah, and people were wondering why Ant is an MVP candidate because the team is so great. And my argument pushback has been it's their defense which has been pushing them over the edge, and they're 18th in offense. And even though Ant's been great at defense, it's been Gobert and McDaniels leading it. So yeah, I have zero issue with Gobert being the fifth guy there on your third team. So my third team, I have your two guys from the second team. So I have AD and Sabonis there. I have Devin Booker, and then I have two of the guys you mentioned. Steph Curry was one of the guys. And for my fifth guy, I almost put Halliburton. Yeah, I almost put Halliburton, but then I ended up going with, and my bias is probably implemented here, but I went with Jaylen Brown. And trust me, I understand not wanting to put Jaylen Brown there because of his like overall impact numbers, and people wonder whether he's the second best player in the Celtics. Not, I think he's very clearly the second best player in the Celtics, but I think just that few-week span after the All-Star break was just phenomenal. And even though I think Tatum is a top 5 player in the league, I think when like Jaylen Brown knows exactly when to step up, and when Tatum is not really playing well, Brown has been beating the allegations of the whole left hand thing, and has just really elevated his game big time.
100%. I mean, Jaylen Brown. I honestly, the only reason I didn't put him on my third team is because I thought I was being biased, and I was trying to battle my own thoughts, and was like, well, is he really as good as I think he is? I do watch a lot of him, maybe I'm just like, when he's so good, he's so good. But
right, yeah.
But I think he does have a good case. And he's one of those guys that's a number 2 that very easily slips into that number 1 scoring option. So I definitely can see it. I have no problem with that call.
Absolutely. Yeah, the one you mentioned, Halliburton. Zero issue with Halliburton there. He was very clearly the best guard in the East for the first 2 months of the season. But then when he got when he got injured, kind of fell off a little bit. So I have zero issue with giving him his flowers for what he did in the first half of the year. But if I were to cut anyone, it'd probably be Curry because of the lack of team success. But yeah, it was very close.
That's and Curry was hard. Curry was hard for me because he's one of those guys that like he deserves it in a certain sense because he is performing well. I mean, I know he's 35, 34, 35. He should be showing more of a palpable drop off than what he showed. But compared to most Curry seasons, it wasn't quite up to snuff.
Yeah.
Or as impressive as what the other guys are doing, in my opinion.
Yeah. But a lot of similarities. Yeah, some differences. Yeah, but now we're going to the all defensive teams, and I'm pretty sure that I watched your episode. I think it was Brett Usher that you had on, where you had a big conversation about the defensive teams.
Yes.
and I kind of like the way that he broke his down, like where like you're not going exactly positionless. You're just going based on like the five guys that you want. And with that, you're not going to go like the five best rim defenders because even though rim defenders are more impactful, I did like that he wanted to include some perimeter guys there. So I was wondering how you went about that too.
I had a hard time with the. Sorry, looking at my thing here. I had a hard time with my
You're good.
trying to, yeah, not have too many rim defenders. But what I ended up finding after all was said and done is like my second team, especially. I think I leaned a little heavier on the perimeter guys, but I think that they are. I don't know. I feel like because rim protection is so important compared to the perimeter stuff, that yeah, we would end up with just five guys.
Right.
So we had to, yeah, had to mix it up a little bit.
Definitely. Yes. With that, do you want to give your first team all defense?
Heck yes. So I'll go with the obvious ones. Rudy Gobert is on there. Victor Wembanyama is on their first team. I think his case is so compelling that you can't not have him. I don't care if he's a rookie. Then I have Bam Adebayo, which I
Okay.
think he's one of the more underrated defenders, um, despite how incredible he is. And then the guards that I have on my team, the two wings on the first team, I have Lou Dort and
Ooh,
Jalen Suggs.
okay. Um, yeah, I didn't consider Lou Dort, but yeah, that's a 100% valid one. He's always been a great perimeter defender, but yeah, he's brought it up to another level this year. Um, yeah, people talk about how Chet's one of the main reason why their defense is so great. I think Lou Dort is definitely another elite reason for that, 100%. Um,
100%. And his ability to draw charges is underrated.
oh yeah, that's yeah, 100%. So mine is yeah, I have Rudy Gobert. I have Victor Wembanyama. We got those two guys, and I did include one more rim defender. I put Anthony Davis in there. And but yeah, but I like a little bit of an easier time with him just because he can guard the perimeter if he wants to. Even though like he does spend more time down the paint. But then with my two perimeter guys, I put Herb Jones and I put our guy Derek White just because like I know and that's not because I'm a Celtics fan. That's because I do feel like the traditional stats are there with like the amount of blocks and steals that he gets. I'm convinced that he could block like prime Hakeem like just like in any situation ever. He just has zero resistance whatsoever.
That's that. Oh, another one. It's so funny that you mentioned that. That was Derek White. I had right there. I just once again was like, am I being biased? I might be being biased. So I just picked somebody else just to pretend like I'm not. But I agree 100% on White. I think he's had a tremendous season. He has a tremendous motor. I mean, his aerial abilities, to block shots and chase down anybody. It's just it's so much fun to watch, and he completely impacts the game in multiple ways. So I really love Derek White. So I'm 100% okay with that choice.
Yeah, it's pretty refreshing to see. Yes, so obviously my two brothers are on the show all the time, and then I also had Joel Dells from the Pick a Side podcast, who's a big Celtics fan as well. And even though we all try to be unbiased, yeah, like there's only so much you can do. So it's very refreshing seeing a Celtics fan try to be as unbiased as he can. Um,
It's because I try. I really
we all try.
really do the
Yeah,
objective thing. I'm all for it, but it's just yeah, I mean, you watch so much of one team, it's hard.
we're human beings at the end of the day. Like there's only so.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. And then yeah, I'll get my second team. Then you can see what you think. So I went with Bam. And yeah, I'll add on to what you said about him being extremely underrated. I feel like most people talk about how great of a defender he is, but and he's usually like one of the first guys on the list. But I still don't think like people talk about what exactly he does that makes him so elite. Yeah. I also have I put Chet Holmgren there. Just because like I feel like his defense isn't as strong as what it was beginning of the year, but I still want to give him his flowers for that. Went with Jaden McDaniels. I think that he's been the phenomenal like Robin to Gobert on defense. I also put Jalen Suggs, who you had in the first team. And the fifth guy, I had a really, really hard time coming with the fifth guy. I thought Giannis. I thought I put Giannis there, but you mentioned Ludo. I'm probably going to put him there instead. Actually,
It's fair. That's fair.
yeah.
I don't mind your second team because it feels like it's a combination of my first and second team too. So I think we're basically on the same page. Um, the only difference, so I have on my second team, I have Derek White.
Mhm.
Then I have Jaden McDaniels.
Mhm.
I have Herb Jones, Anthony Davis, and then the guy that probably is my swing that no one else would take. I have Jarrett Allen.
That's a phenomenal one, actually. That's
Yeah,
that's a great one.
I think his impact has been tremendous, and he's another guy that, in my opinion, is kind of underrated a bit. But
Yeah, yeah, we can't really complain much there, and yeah, I don't think yeah, like I'll bring him up. I don't think that Giannis is gonna make an all defensive team just because the Bucks defense really stinks. But I don't think he's really to blame for that. I think it's more so how god awful their perimeter defense is.
when you lose Drew Holiday, and you know you're going to take a step back. So I
Absolutely.
mean, we love Damian Lillard, but we all know that that trade was offense for defense. I mean,
Absolutely.
defense for offense. Sorry.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So that's what we have for our teams. So now we will go into the actual rewards, and I'm thinking that we go in the order that I sent it to you, and that's kind of like the yeah we'll go coach of the year first. So I'm wondering who your top three guys are.
All right, so top three guys for Coach of the Year. I have Mark Dagnow from OKC.
Okay.
I got Jamal Mosley from Orlando, and Chris Finch from Minnesota.
No complaints there. Those are all great picks. They're all teams that have overachieved, and
Yep.
no one really expected them to. I picked the Magic to be like I'm pretty sure like all those teams except for the Thunder. I picked to be better than what the field had them as. But yeah, all three of them have been awesome. There's something I wanted to say about Dagnado. We could talk about that later though, like once it comes back. But
Fair enough.
yeah. Once again, because we're going to talk about the Thunder later when we talk about the MVP. So um, so I'll go backwards actually. So third place for me, I went with Mosley. I'm a big fan of him. Second place, I went with Dagnall. And first place, I actually went with Joe Mazzulla, just because.
Oh,
And yeah, and I'm not even going to say I'm biased here, just because like I want to actually I want people to understand like what exactly he has had to go through as a head coach. Um, he like, and maybe many may see this as a lifetime achievement award, but because from factoring last year, but I want people to understand what exactly he not really what he's been through, but just like the obstacles that he's had to face. So he entered. So he was hired as a head coach because of a scandal, and he was hired, and it feels like really no one knew what was going on, and I really feel like that's they tried to keep it as private as possible. So who knows what Joe Mazzulla knows and what exactly was going on. And not only that, it was also the fact that, and this was a very Ime Udoka was a very very popular head coach, so he had to try to get the players to buy in as much as possible. And people also forget the day after that Ime was fired was the day that Rob Williams it was announced that he was going to be out for the first couple months. So he already inherited two impossible situations. But he got his team to buy in, and then halfway through the year, one of his main assistants, Damon Stoudemire, ended up resigning and then going to another space. So Ime Udoka, Will Hardy, and Damon Stoudemire, all coaches from the year prior, from when they made the finals, and and Joe Mazzulla, who was like a back at the bench coach, had to had to jump in and really have like a whole cast who didn't. Let's be honest, like, they didn't really like him because they thought that they should have been. Like, they probably thought that they were more deserving of it than him. But anyway, he leads the team to the second seed. They were a little worse than the year before, but I think most of that was because of Rob Williams being out for good amounts, which people forget. Like Rob Williams, like when he was healthy for those 2 months, he was one of the best defenders in the league. So that was far more of a loss than people think because he came back, he wasn't nearly the same player. But then but then he brings the team to the East Conference Finals. They go down 3-0. They come back, and then they lose Game 7. Which is very similar to how 2022 happened when if Jimmy Butler makes that shot, they finish the same things the entire year. So it was like the margins that really got them there. And then this year they're going to win either 63 or 64 games. And call Super Tim all you want. Time after time again, we have seen that coaching matters. No one gives Phil Jackson or I'm not saying he's Phil Jackson. I'm not saying that he's Greg Popovich, but you need a great head coach in order to win a lot of games. And Joe Mazzulla has done exactly that in what has not at all been the perfect situation. So that I think he needs his flowers there for sure. I think he should be a top 3. It's a top 3 big coach here.
That's fascinating. I actually, I might have just been convinced, to be honest. Not that I didn't want to be, but I like that a lot because you're definitely right. He has gone through some trials and tribulations and was thrown into the fire, just with little expectation of having said thing happen. And really, he has done an incredible job, all things considered. So yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. I'm all right with that one.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add was he has a fantastic starting five, one of the best in the league, and one of the best all time, to be honest with you. He's also made the most of his bench players as well. Peyton Pritchard has been awesome this year. Luke Cornett, same thing with Hauser as well. Yeah, he's made the most of the situation, and I applaud him for that.
Yes, 100%. Those guys have turned out great, and yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So got coach of the year. So why don't we talk about rookie of the year now? Probably won't be much of a discussion there, but why don't you give your top 3?
All right. So I'll go backwards this way. I got Jaime Jaquez Jr. as number 3. I've got Chet Holmgren as number 2. And surprise, surprise to absolutely nobody, Victor Wembanyama as number 1.
Wow.
Right? Mind blown.
Yes, mostly the same thing as you. I do have Brandon Miller there instead of Jaime Jaquez Jr. Yeah, zero issue either way. Yeah, both of them have been great this year, and I really hope that Jaime Jaquez Jr. doesn't turn into Caleb Martin this year in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens there. But it feels like Ever Spoelstra and Parelli found another guy who came out of nowhere and make the most of him. So we'll see if that translates to the playoffs or not. But
of course,
yeah. But Wemby versus Chet was a great race in the beginning of the year, but it feels like Wemby really separated himself end of the year. Just put in multiple master classes, and he's had just as good a rookie year as you would have wanted, someone who with such high expectations. So, and people bring it the wins, but I think that I don't remember what it was. I think they're 7 points better with him on the court than off the court. I think that's overall. I think defensively they're like 4 points better with him on the court than off the court, and that's only going to get better as time goes on. So he's just he's an athletic freak, and it's going to be really cool seeing him develop.
I just can't believe I can't believe that the hype train was so insane for this kid, and yet he came in and I think he superseded the hype. Like he might be better than what people were thinking he could be, and that to me that's wild. Like that's absolutely wild. Like this hype train was insane.
I don't just remember. I mentioned him earlier. Like Aaron, aka Possible Cheers, made a video on like what he thinks his stat line is going to be, and he had it at over 3 blocks per game. And they're like, "Oh, don't you think you're letting me a little too high?" Nope, not at all. He averages 4 blocks per game. And my favorite stat is that there's only 4 guys ever to have over 200 blocks in the season. So it's him, AD in 2015, I want to believe, Hassan Whiteside, and I forgot who the 4th guy was, but someone who's not a really great 3-point shooter. Those 3 guys did not hit a pull-up 3 all season long. He has 61 pull-up 3s. What the hell?
Yeah. Like the rim protecting, sham god using, lob catching, like 3-point. He's just doing everything. It's incredible, and he's a great passer too. Like I don't know. Yeah. He's
Uh,
very, very good. I'm excited for Victor.
yeah, and I'm going to go off track just for a second here, but we talk about a West the stack the West is this year. He's the Spurs are going to improve with him. The Grizzlies are going to get better next year when everyone else gets healthy, along with the Houston Rockets, who got better towards the end of the year. It is going to be bananas next year how insane the West is going to be, and it's gonna be insane.
That's exciting. I didn't
Yeah,
even think about that, but you're right. That's super
yeah,
exciting. The West is going to be a friggin'
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I think you're going to see a lot of maybe see some stars move to the East soon just to get away from there. We'll see. Um,
Right.
yeah. Um, these next two awards that I want to talk about, sixth man and MIP. We'll talk about sixth man first. I think those were the two hardest to pick, honestly.
Yes.
Just because of what people will end up prioritizing. But I'd like to know what your top three for six man was.
So yes, you're right. Six man was very difficult. I I don't know. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on these, but I do think that they are very legit candidates.
Mhm.
So number three, I have Norm Powell from Clippers.
Yep.
Number two, I have Nas Reed from Minnesota. And number one, I actually have Malik Monk from Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, that was my exact top three. Um,
Oh, really? Nice.
yeah, I wanted to put Nas Reed one, but he started. It's just the fact that he started a good amount of games once Cat fell down. So, like, it was the same reason that I chose Malcolm Brogdon ahead of Emmanuel Quickly last year was that he played was that Quickly played better in the games that he started than the ones off the bench. So, um, I don't know, and Monk getting injured also kind of may may turn people away, but yeah, he's had a great season too. So yeah, these are definitely viable candidates, but yeah, like I'm a little less confident in these picks than the other ones.
Yeah, yeah, like exactly. Like you look at it and you're like, Monk has every reason to probably walk away with this award, but the other guys do have great arguments, and like you said before, I mean, it's hard to determine what everybody values when they're choosing this position. So yeah, I don't know, but I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. Now, determining what everyone values, that is going to be especially the case with most improved.
Mm.
What's the definition of most improved? Is it is it someone who sucked last year and was very good this year? Is it someone who was okay this last year but jumped up this year? Um, that's a tough one. And one
Yeah, it
thing,
is.
yeah, and one thing that I usually do is I try to take out all sophomores, or not take them out, but like I'm just never going to pick them as a winner because it's expected that you're going to improve from your rookie year. So yeah, I'll give my three. Third place, I went with Tyrese Maxey. Second, which he's the overwhelming favorite, but we can talk about that in a second. Second place, I went with J Dub. He probably would have been my first if he wasn't a sophomore. But then my first, I went with Kobe White. And usually, I like to go with like an all star for most improved. So I thought about like I thought about Scotty, but it was kind of expected that he was going to jump, and also he doesn't have the 65 game threshold either. Um, so yeah, but the thing is, yeah, Kobe White, like he wasn't an all star, but he was in talks for a couple weeks there. Um, and yeah, just the fact that he jumped up nearly 10 points per game this year and he definitely has stepped up since the fall of Zach LaVine. So that those were my picks.
I have not the same order, but I do have the exact same three guys.
Mhm. Yeah,
I have J Dub three, I have Kobe White two, and I actually have Tyrese Maxey one.
yeah. So
Mostly because of just the All Star thing kind of pressed him a little forward for me.
yeah, and I have zero issue with that. But like, yeah, just my only thing against him is that he's another one. I was kind of expecting him to take that jump already. Which not to the extent of John Morant, which I really don't think that John Morant should have won it when he won it, just because he was good. Everyone knew that he was going to be an all star, but that's not the same thing for Tyrese Maxey. However, I did watch Tyrese Maxey last year a lot. That was outside of the conference semifinals, and I've always seen the potential in him, and I always felt like up until this year he's been pretty underrated.
I agree wholeheartedly. And just a side note, I do have to say, for my third spot, I did have a hard time because part of me, and maybe this is a little crazy, part of me believes that Jonathan Kaminga should be in the conversation too.
I thought about him too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good, nice.
And I'm actually pretty sure that he's fourth in DraftKings odds, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Like,
So
yeah,
we're
it's
so
the
we're
top
not,
three.
so it's not as ridiculous
No,
as I thought it was.
no,
Okay.
no,
I
yeah,
thought picking a warrior might give me a little slack, but
no. Yeah. Cool. Um, yeah, we'll talk about Depoy now. So, which we already talked about defense a little bit with our defensive teams, but yeah, like when we talk about our top three guys now.
yeah, this this I feel like everybody's leaning a certain way with Depoy, and everyone's kind of already made their decision
Right.
a little inadvertently quickly. So for me, I have Bam as three.
Okay.
This is where I'm going against the grain, at least in my opinion, because I think this guy is the favorite. But I have Gobert number two,
Okay.
and I have Victor Wembanyama number one.
All right.
And I know people are going to get on me about team record right away. How can the defensive player of the year be on such a lousy team and yada, yada? But we have to kind of look at what he's doing, maybe more in a vacuum, and just compare it to anybody else. Like his stats are ridiculous. The on off numbers are there. Like he's clearly impacting their defense tremendously. I find it's he's so dominant in these stats. It's just hard to keep it away from him, in my opinion. But I don't think people are going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. And let me I'm pulling up the defensive stats now, like the on-off numbers, I should say. So they are the Spurs net rating with him. Sorry, not net rating. Defensive rating with him on the courts is 114. Off the court, it's 119. So, yeah. So 5 points better with like 5 points better on off is very good overall. Just one side of the floor, that's insane.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, zero issue there putting Wemby there. But I do think that Gobert is just a little more impactful. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I do think that if you just look at the aspects of the teams are usually like teams are afraid to like driving the hoop just because like if you throw up the ball anywhere inside the paint, Gobert is going to be there. Even though he's not really athletic, and people get on him for his perimeter defense, he's a solid perimeter defender. The only reason that people like really get on for that is because the one game against the Clippers in 2021. But yeah, he's always been pretty solid on the perimeter defense. It's just that this is the first year that he's had a solid supporting cast on that end. So yeah, zero issue with putting Wemby first there, but yeah, I do think that Gobert is just a little bit better this year.
And I'm really happy for Rudy Gobert, not gonna lie. I was super duper skeptical of that trade when it went down. Seemed
Yeah,
ridiculous, seemed like complete nonsense to give away all those picks for Rudy. And I'm not saying necessarily it's still, a even trade,
right.
but Rudy Gobert has definitely been impressive and surrounded by, like you said, better perimeter defense that he was getting in Utah. I think he's showing how valuable he can be.
Absolutely. And yeah, this year, yeah, this is going to be the year where we see. He's like, I'm not going to change my mind on him. I still think he's an elite defender and one of, if not the best in the league. But it'll be interesting this year to see how his team does in the playoffs. But I think this year is going to be the year where people start to realize especially if the Timberwolves win. But yeah, I'm just concerned that there's going to be like one game where like whoever he's guarding is going to have a great game, and people are just going to call him a fraud, which not it's not like I'm a stand of him or anything. So it's not like it's not like I'm gonna have to defend him or anything. But I'm just seeing false narratives just gets on my nerves a little bit.
But see, my thing with Gobert, honestly, is we're gonna have to. I feel like start putting him in different conversations legacy wise now that he's
Right.
gonna potentially
So
enter that 4 defensive player of the year
yeah,
category. Yeah.
yeah, and that's really interesting, just because like people like I remember I got into an argument with someone on Twitter over this. even if he wins his fourth DPOY, I still don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, which sounds crazy. But and people brought up Dikembe Mutombo and Ben Wallace about how awful they were on offense, but just elite on defense. We saw Dikembe Mutombo and Ben Wallace shut down some of the best, not shut down, but like go toe to toe with some of the best big men of our of that era in the playoffs. I don't like yeah like and even though like I don't think Gobert's lows are as bad as people say he is. He doesn't have many highs though. Like there are not many moments where, and I'm not asking you to carry anything, but I'm asking just for a little something that like you really shine in the playoffs. I really haven't seen that from him.
I
So that
agree.
yeah,
I agree. If Utah, because considering Utah had this number one seed at one point, had really good records with him and Donovan Mitchell, and they never really could put anything together. I think that kind of holds him back for sure. Because yeah, he doesn't have any playoff moments. He doesn't have any like
yeah,
big, large highlights that you could point to. Like, yeah, he really showed up in this moment.
right.
He doesn't have that, and so I think despite the four depoys, he still is a tier below some of those other guys
Yeah.
as far as impact.
It also really doesn't help that he's not at all respected by not only some guys in the league, like I know that Draymond hates him. I know that Shaq doesn't like him. So um, yeah, I don't know. It'll be yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, this is I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance, but like this is his best opportunity to really show who he is in the playoffs, and
Hmm.
it'll all depend on who they match up with in the first round. They're probably going to finish as the two seeds, so maybe the Lakers, maybe the Suns. We'll see. Um, and now the moment we've been waiting for, or not really the moment we've been for, because we all know because it's pretty because I think you all know who we're going to talk about, but um, we'll talk about our MVP candidates. So yeah, why don't you give okay, we've done top three for all this, but why don't we do top five actually for MVP? Just
Top five for MVP. We could do that. We could do that. Let's see. So I will go backwards, I guess.
mhm.
And I am going to get hate for this, but people just don't have to worry about it. I have Tatum at 5. I have Giannis at 4. I have SGA at 3. I have Luca at 2. And then I have Nikola Jokic at 1.
That exact same order for me. Yeah, those.
Ha,
Yeah,
nice.
yep,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. Pretty boring order. For a while, it was Jokic versus SGA. Then Luka really came out. Really like the Mavs' big win streak, and he was really like he hasn't really carried the Mavs this year, but like he's been very very good for them. But I feel like since the trade deadline, he's had a pretty solid supporting cast, and since Kyrie went back to being healthy, like it's been a very good team around him, and the Mavs have been one of the best teams in the league with everyone healthy. So I don't necessarily have a big problem if you think that Lucas should be the MVP over Jokic, but I just watched the I just watched the Nuggets without Jokic. Not only do I watch that, not only do I watch the Nuggets without them. All the and I know people say like, oh, you're only looking at Warp and Rapture, and you think that Jokic's better. No, no. If you watch the game and see how impactful he is, just watch how much focus he gets on offense. Watch how they perform without him. Jokic is hands down the most valuable player in the league, whether or not you use the actual definition, whether you think he should win the MVP award. He is above and beyond everyone else as far as it goes for value.
That yeah, I like Luca checks a lot of boxes. I'm not
Yeah.
going to deny it. And he is special. He has that clutch factor. He makes incredible plays. He's a highlight machine. And now Dallas is winning. So, yes, he does have all the ingredients for an MVP season. I will not deny that. But Jokic is just still like, I watched this. I don't know if you've heard of Thinking Basketball.
Yep.
They do a
I,
lot of stuff on YouTube, whatever. Yeah. And they did
I,
this.
yeah.
Oh,
1 second, actually. Yeah. Keep talking. Yeah.
okay. So they did a thing on Thinking Basketball about Luka Doncic, and it was about his impact. And what I found to be ridiculous, or to be crazy, was a player of his talent, of his caliber, having such a low on-off impact numbers. You don't see that typically.
I thought that
So
was
yeah. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, oh, no, I was going to add on to that because, well, first of all, yeah, I finished this book a couple weeks ago, actually, thinking basketball. I don't know if you read it, but yeah, it's a lot of good stuff in there. But what was I going to say? Uh, yeah, like when I was doing this, like, I didn't realize how low the on off numbers was, and I'm usually a big proponent for on off because it just shows like it's like by definition shows you how valuable you are. But
Mhm.
I do know that some people say it as okay, okay, but there's also the different rotations like that. That could also mean that could also be just an indictment on coaching and everything. So yeah, I think that one of those is there are some players that I really think that it does a disservice to. Jalen Brown is one of those players where the team is technically better with him on the court than off the court, but I think that has more to do with the fact that Tatum and White are usually off the floor when Brown is on the floor with those guys. So um, and yeah, and in Luca's case, it's kind of tough to explain with Luca. I think it's more so just because like the ball, he's so ball dominant that it's not that he's predictable. I guess he is kind of predictable, but even if someone's predictable, that doesn't mean you can stop them.
Right.
So yeah, but then when he's off the floor, it's like a little tougher to see who the ball is going to go to and everything. So that's probably what that is there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And that with such a high usage rate comes such a high dependence, and you are going to get those numbers. But I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be angry if Luca pulled it off and got the votes. But I do think Jokic just, I mean, I know people aren't super into advanced analytics as much as we are, but
Mhm.
I mean, as the kids say, Jokic clears in said advanced statistics,
Yeah,
and by a pretty healthy margin in some of them. So it's like we know what we're seeing with the impact on off with Jokic. It's a little bit more
yeah,
evident.
and it's actually and I try not to get my information from like the mainstream media. But I was watching First Things First yesterday, and Chris Broussard was talking about how Jokic kind of entered this year with more of an advantage, just because people almost felt bad they didn't win last year, and then he won in the playoffs. So while like I'm not using I don't use sympathy votes at all, just because I think you should only do it based on this year. But I definitely think that's a factor, and I know that next year Jokic could play even better than he did this year, and I don't think he's going to win. Like it's very hard to win your fourth MVP, especially in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Jokic is gonna be on a whole different planet after this. I think when it comes to the rankings all
Mhm.
time,
Yeah,
and so I this is gonna be quite the interesting. Like Jokic is gonna be quite the interesting guy to rank after all is said and done. That's for sure.
yeah. I don't have as big of a list as Aaron and Nate do, but I do have a top 100 list. I'm currently trying to build it up a little bit, and I think in my most recent switch ups, I'm pretty sure that I had Jokic at 23, 22 or 23.
Gotcha.
Um,
That's crazy.
he's going to win his third MVP, so I'm going to probably move him ahead of. So I think I have Chuck and a couple other guys ahead of him. Yeah, I'm going to move ahead of Chuck, probably Malone and Garnett and Dirk if he wins the third MVP. If he wins his second title with three MVPs, probably going to jump him ahead of Moses Malone and maybe even Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, and Kevin Durant. Like it's good. I don't know how you don't like it's the advanced stats and all the accolades and just the overall impact, which I know that's like the NBA community, like social media community's least favorite thing is accolades and advanced stats. But what else are you going to look at? And I test wise, which I know a lot of Hooper people say like oh, watch the game. I watch the game and I see how unstoppable he is. It's you guys that are missing something, not us.
Exactly. Exactly. You watch enough of the Nuggets play, and it's so easy to see why this team is so successful because of just how he controls the offense, how he does everything at his own tempo, his own speed. Nobody can make him rush something. He's just gonna use his skill set and just punish you with it. And there's very little you could do.
Yeah, yeah. The playoffs will tell. And I'm not really, yeah, and I'm not rooting for anyone out west. I'm only rooting, like, yeah, I never root for matchups. I'm rooting for one team. We're rooting for one team, and as Jalen Brown says, we'll be ready for whoever's in front of us. So
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, definitely planning to have you on again, especially hopefully after they win the finals. We'll see. Yeah, we'll okay, maybe even during the playoffs. We'll see what happens there.
Right.
Yeah. But before we go, Orry, do you want to give you a couple of your plugs?
Oh yeah, heck yes. So Orry B, I am social media director for Hoop Social. If you have any of the social media platforms, make sure you check Hoop Social out. We are a multifaceted basketball conglomerate, ha, which AKA means we're just a community that tries to get a lot of content creators, tries to make a lot of content together, and just entertain people with basketball stuff. So, yeah, follow Hoop Social anywhere you get your basketball content.
Absolutely. And why don't you talk about your show just for a couple of seconds because it's under this channel as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So for everybody that is interested in seeing our show, it is Hoop Social, the Creator Hour. We do it Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. on this same network for Chilltown Hoops and Sports Fluent. And we have a great time. We like to talk with our guests about their journey and then talk about NBA conversations. Uh, it's a really good time, and All American Hooper is going to be on eventually too. So we're going to learn a little bit about him, and yeah, it's a really good atmosphere, good show, and I really like doing it. So Wednesday night at 8 p.m.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been able to catch a couple of his episodes, and yeah, definitely one of my new favorite podcasts to watch now. And yeah, he's had some pretty cool guests on, including one of my friends, Tobias Barkley, on there last week. So yeah, definitely looking forward to coming on the show. Yeah, but yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show. Yeah, this is one of the longer episodes we've had, and I'm really happy about that. It was definitely a great show to talk about, just everything going on this year.
Yes, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This is a tremendous opportunity, and you're a really great basketball mind. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks so much for coming on. But to close things out, I'll give a couple of my plugs. So I'm very active on all three of my social media sites on Instagram, TikTok, and X. All American Hooper for all three of them. Also, take a look at my column on primetimesportstalk.com. And as you can see on the bottom there, subscribe to Chills on Hoops on YouTube to catch every episode on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Definitely try to become a member if you can. Eventually, I'm going to try to have some callers as well, so that take an opportunity there. But as always, thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.